What's up, guys? Average Kiwi Guy here. How y'all doing? So, Battlefront 2 definitely been in the news cycle a little bit for a lot of the bad reasons, for very much bad reasons. The good thing is that has come out of it is that purchasing loot boxes has been turned off. You cannot purchase loot boxes and stuff. So the pay-to-win side of it is being hampered a little bit. You know, you can't just go out and spend huge amounts of money and get all the cards that you want. Even though it would take a lot of money, you know, as a lot of the breakdowns have shown, it would take a lot of money to get there. But for me, when I bought Battlefront 2, the main reason I bought it for was the story, was the campaign. I am a big Star Wars fan. I'm a massive Star Wars fan. You know, everyone has their thing. Everyone has their franchise that they love, all that. Star Wars is mine. So I'm very excited for the movie that's coming up in I think maybe about 3 weeks, which is sort of thing. So I'm very excited for that. So when I heard that a canon story on the Imperial side, is coming for the single player campaign for Battlefront 2, I was like, really? And then the trailers, when they're showing up Sentinels and, Project Cinder and all this stuff, that was massive. That was like, holy shit. And I've read the books, the Aftermath books, a lot of the canon stuff that, that's come out up, obviously in this new era of Star Wars is, very, very intriguing to me. Very intriguing to me. So something that's in that era, in that, really telling the stories after the destruction of the second Death Star was massive to me. So that was the big reason why I bought this game. Now, is that worth the full AAA price, your regional equivalent? For me, that's over $100. In New Zealand dollars, it's over $100. So it's not just a quick, $30, $40, buy for me here. This is, a full AAA price thing. Is it worth it? God, no. God, no. It's only 4 hours. 4 hours. Really, that's it. You could probably push it to 5. Because obviously with difficulties and stuff, and how much you die, and how much you kind of explore the levels and stuff like that. So God knows, is it not worth all that money? You have to play the multiplayer to have somewhat of a return on what of the money that you spent. So obviously I've done that, and I've played enough of the multiplayer and stuff to know what the game is ultimately like for me and how I feel about it. So I thought I'd do a bit of a rant. Obviously I've done that already, but a little bit of a rant on Battlefront 2, the story campaign, the Battlefront 2 in itself, and then the kind of where gaming Star Wars wise, where it's at, where Star Wars gaming is at the moment in video games, and how disappointing it is right now. It really is. So we'll start off with the Battlefront 2 story. That's the big thing. Obviously, I went into the whole that spiel. So obviously with the story, it did not go the way I thought it was going to go. Obviously, the gameplay and everything, it's Battlefront 2. There is nothing really different that they do here. There's the opening level, they probably do the most, different thing, which is you actually play as the little droid, and you go around and you do a bit of a stealthy sneak mission, and you can zap people and stuff like that. That is the most creative that the gameplay gets. And the final scene is probably the most creative level. But gameplay-wise, there is not much different from, the multiplayer Battlefront. It's just, you don't have a bunch of players trying to shoot you. You just have AI shooting you. So, for me, it comes down to the story. Because we know, graphics-wise, the graphics are beautiful. It's all, DICE will never make a bad-looking game. It's just not going to happen. It is a beautiful game. For me, yeah, it's a story and what happens in this thing. When I first came across this, right, you think, right, it's going to follow the Empire side here. We're going to follow the Inferno Squad, which is an Imperial squad, you may have some stuff where you might doubt what the Empire is doing, but you're going to stick with them, go down with the ship, and then eventually you'll come up as the First Order. Like, that's what I thought was going to happen. Like, Iden would eventually become maybe, one of the old heads in the First Order. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be really cool. Like, that's something different that we have not seen before. For about half this game it is. For half, but then with the other half, they'll very quickly send you over to the rebellion. They very quickly send you over to the rebel scum, and you just are like, this is not what you kind of sold this campaign as. You sold it as you playing as a steadfast Imperial, a member of a special ops Imperial squad, an Inferno squad. And you move this quickly over to becoming a rebel. And for me, that comes back to the length of the campaign. If you had a few more hours, at least, you could probably explain it better. You could have, because the campaign does time jump, obviously, because they want to span mainly the Aftermath books, which is about 3 years after. Don't quote me on that. I think it's about, I don't know specifically how much, but I'm pretty sure it's 3 years is the battle for Jakku afterwards. But it time jumps to get that, because they got to fit so much in a very small amount of time. And with that, you can't do the character development. You can't, show the player what's going on in Iden's head and slowly see her turning into, to the rebel side of thinking, or to not, I don't think the Empire is where I need to be anymore, sort of thing. It happens very quickly. It's like, one mission, you're steadfast Imperial. Next mission, you're a traitor because of what's happening to your home planet and things like that. Where if you had those few more hours to explain it, to do a few more levels, to say, hey, maybe, and they probably the only one who's justified in changing is Del, because Del runs into Luke Skywalker and actually they talk about it. I didn't need that. I didn't needed something to happen to her other than just her planet being targeted by Operation Cinder to, justify the change. And to justify it so drastically that you basically become like best friends with Princess Leia by the end of it in very few amount of missions. So it needed that extra time. And that plays into just the allocation of the budget. What I think EA would demand that it not exceed a certain amount of time, because if you think about it, if everyone's off playing the campaign and it takes them, a couple of days to play it, that's not good for them business-wise, where they want everyone in multiplayer spending money on, loot boxes and shit like that. So for them, they're like, do not exceed 5 hours. I would imagine that was a mandate. Like, average time, 4 to 5 hours. Do not exceed that. I would not be surprised. And it hurts. It hurts the story. It hurts the campaign, which overall is a pretty damn good time. It's a pretty damn good time. I had a good time with this thing. And if it just had that little bit more amount of time for them to develop it and to, really get into, the story and the characters and stuff like that, we would not have an issue. But it's a multiplayer game. They're not going to they're not going to put, the budget, the time, the development into that single player campaign where they want everyone in the multiplayer. It was kind of for me, one, it was disappointing that they went from the Empire to the Rebels so fast, and the fact that they did that, where I would love if they'd stick to the Imperial side and really explain what happened there, and maybe use some characters like Admiral Sloane and all that to kind of explain that a little bit, but they didn't. But they wanted you to meet the big names of Star Wars. That was it. They wanted you to meet the big names. They wanted you to meet Luke Skywalker. They wanted you to meet Princess Leia. They wanted you to meet Han Solo. They wanted you to meet Lando. all these big names. And the most efficient way for them to do that, put them on the Rebellion. Put them on the New Republic. That's the easiest way for them to do it. So, it's a little disappointing. I would have loved if they had stuck to the guns and stayed with the Empire. So yeah, like I said, 4 hours, not worth, just buying this just for that. The campaign ends very abruptly. The last mission is very cool. The epilogue is very cool. Kind of explains a little bit of Kylo Ren's abilities and stuff like that. And you kind of see, how he gets his information and stuff. It's a very cool, level and a very cool mission, but it ends very abruptly because they are going to give us some DLC missions, but those are free because every DLC, every character map and all the rest of it that comes out is free DLC. That's why they went so ham on the loot box stuff, is because all this stuff is coming out is free DLC. So it's not so bad. But I would have liked for this stuff to be in the game, and then, put that development time that you're doing for these. I think it's about 3 missions. You could have put that in the campaign and then given us these 3 missions, sort of thing. I would have preferred that, but we'll see. We'll see how these newer missions come out as. Does it stick to the decent quality that this has? Let's hope it does. Because apparently it goes between Force Awakens and Last Jedi. So, kind of cool. And I'm looking forward to it. That's why I think it's releasing after Last Jedi comes out. So, yeah. Bit of it was disappointing, the directions they took. And I think the fact that it is a tacked on... It's a very good tacked on campaign. But man, could this have been great. If this was a standalone thing, and I would pay for that. If this was a standalone single player game following Iden, following the Inferno Squad, which they could have put a lot more development time into, really used the squad base, kind of like what Star Wars Republic Commando was like, where each guy had his own job and, each one could do different things and stuff, and they actually contributed to the fight and all that. That would have been amazing. An Inferno Squad like that, where you have a sniper and a demolitions expert and, all that stuff would have been so good. So good. And, then it would they could have done a 7-10 hour, whatever amount of campaign, which they could have fleshed all this stuff out. They did a good job, but it was so hampered and so limited that it couldn't get fleshed out, and that hurt it. That hurt it massively, which was a big shame. Because there are, amazing set pieces in this. Amazing, when you're flying around, in the TIE fighters and stuff, and you see what's going on, damn, it's good. And some of the cutscenes and stuff are fantastic. Sometimes when you realize where you are in this campaign, what's happening around you, as a Star Wars fan, it gives you goosebumps, and it's really, really good. But it's just, it needed to be its own thing. And it would have been so much better. And then I guess it leads to us as Battlefront 2 as a whole. I've played pretty much all the multiplayer, modes and stuff. For me, the Galactic Assault and the Starfighter Assault are my 2 favorites. I still wonder to this day. DICE make Battlefield, which is 64-man, freaking tanks everywhere with multi-person tanks. Everyone has their own little turret stuff and all the rest of it. Big, massive battle things. How can you not do this in Star Wars? How? Seriously. You do it for Battlefield. How can you not do it for Battlefront? Do what you do best in Battlefield. Bring that over. Make it look like Star Wars. Bring in all the stuff from Star Wars lore, like all the tanks and all the fighters and all the bikes and swoop bikes and all this stuff. Make big, massive Battlefield. Do that. Bring in the squad-based stuff that you got in Battlefield 1, where the commander of the squad gives the order and you go and get the order. Then you get more points. That tributes to you getting the heroes and getting all that shit, so you don't have to do the hero spawn stuff. Do that. I don't understand why they want to do it on a smaller scale. Surrounding a very, very confined, objective-based thing. Like I would prefer the bigger scale stuff. I think it would be awesome on Battlefront. The way the Battlefront is. It would have been so good. Then the Starfighter Assault. It's a good start. And the bots being around, I think, really helped because, when you're not so good and when you start out, you're not so good because there's guys that play, some guys that play it far too much. But, the bots at least let you get into the game, let you learn a little bit, and also distract some players, so that you're not just getting targeted and shot so quickly that you're not having a good time, and let you get into it. And it adds to the vastness of the fight, so it looks like a lot of stuff's happening, which is good. It's good. It helps. But it doesn't really compete with the Battlefront, the original Battlefront 2 stuff, where you could take off in a transport as a Marine, go onto the enemy ships, and then take down shields and all the rest of it. Like actually go on the ship, steal enemy fighters, like all that stuff. It doesn't compare to that. It doesn't. They just need to take that and modernize it up. How hard is that? I don't understand. I guess they want to get away from what Pandemic did, but there's no shame in it. There's no shame. No one's going to call you out. They're all going to go, yes, thank you. This is what we've been asking for the past 2 games. That there's no shame in taking what they did and making it better. There's none. And obviously with the loot boxes, them tying it into progression and all that shit like that, I don't know why heroes are locked. That's just stupid. Why are you doing that? There's no point. They're like, oh, but progression, all the rest of it. No. Yes, unlocking, the slots, for abilities and stuff like that. Yeah, make that progression. Make that you earn, guns and stuff like that. Maybe, I don't know. There are other things to link into progression than locking off heroes and locking off all this shit. Star cards were a bad choice right from the beginning. That was not a good idea. All they needed to do was, you have abilities. As that class, you have abilities. As you go through the level of that class, you unlock different abilities so that you can customize them. That's it. You don't need cards. Cards are not necessary. You just have a list of abilities for those classes. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, you could lock some behind the some levels. That's just game time. Put them, respectable amount of game time. Boom. Done. And then if you want to do loot boxes, guess what? Cosmetics are a really good thing, and people love paying money for it. I don't know how much money I spent on Overwatch, and that's just for skins. Cosmetics would suit this perfectly. Especially when everyone is a trooper or a droid or whatever that all looks the same. It would be nice to make my heavy, look unique to me. With all I don't know, a freaking mohawk or scratches and freaking paint job and all the rest of it. Let me do that stuff. I'll pay for that. I'll pay, a couple of bucks here and there to get loot boxes to see what I get. Actual good victory poses, emotes, all that shit. Just put it in there. That stuff doesn't affect the game. You want to make a bit extra money because you are giving away the maps and all that shit for free. I understand that. But if you do that, do it right. Do it right. Do it a way that people aren't going to chew you out for it and cause a freaking big, massive hoopla over it. Now, you're in the middle of people just hating your ass again. Big time. So, They did it to themselves. They did it to themselves. And it's disappointing. It's massively disappointing. Like there was, like you had hope. You had hope that they had learnt, and they're coming out saying, "Oh yeah, maps are free" and all the rest of it. But once I saw those goddamn star cards, and they're like, "Oh, if you pre-order now, you get a free epic Yoda star card." I was like, "What do star cards do? What is this stuff?" And then once I saw it, I'm like, "Son of a bitch." That was my immediate reaction. So yeah. Otherwise, like, the game's beautiful. The game is beautiful. The levels are beautiful. It's amazing, like, being in the world of Star Wars. They do a fantastic job. The guns and stuff, yeah, they're good. I like them. They're solid. They're fine. Nothing uber special about the shooting, but it's still good. I like it. When you're shooting, like, when you see the blaster bolts, like, ricochet off stuff and all that, it feels like Star Wars, which is really good. The hero stuff, there is definitely some very OP heroes. And I think a lot of them are kind of very difficult to balance. Some are very much better than others, like Maul versus Han Solo or something like that. There's just, some of them are not worth taking. Some of them are not worth taking, which is like, pointless. But locking them, I don't understand. I don't understand that. The abilities should be locked behind levels, not freaking, like Darth Vader. 40 hours plus of gameplay just to get him. I know they changed that shit and all that, but it was never a good choice to begin with. Yeah. And then I guess that takes us to the third thing that I said we're going to talk about, which was Star Wars gaming as a whole. Really, like, in this new era of Star Wars. From like when we heard about Force Awakens, when Disney bought Lucasfilms, and obviously, that, and EA's acquisition of Star Wars IP and all that. We are in a golden age. One of the golden ages of Star Wars. We really are. We are getting more Star Wars things than we ever have. Movies, TV shows, freaking Netflix series are coming out for it. Books, comics, all the media, everything. Every media that you can think of is getting Star Wars stuff. More and more of it. But one. Video games. Where are the Star Wars video games? Where are they? Battlefront is really all we've seen. I mean, you could say, okay, Old Republic. Old Republic's been around for years. And it's not canon. It's has nothing to do with the current Star Wars era that's going on. And it's just, been expansions. So it's like, okay. And like, as someone who was a KOTOR fan, like massive KOTOR fan, I burned out my Xbox playing that game. Like, I was never a big fan of Old Republic. I've played it, and I play it, when I need it, like when I play an MMO, like when I want to play one and stuff like that, that's one of the ones I choose from, like either WoW or Final Fantasy 14. But where's, other than that, like, what, a mobile game? And Battlefront. And I guess you could count the Legos. That's not good enough. Where's everything else? And when they announce things like, hey, Visceral's going to make something. Hey, there's this. Hey, there's that. They just shut the damn things down. Like, EA, I firmly believe that EA does not want to make a single-player Star Wars game. I don't think they do. I feel single-player story-based RPG-like games play very well in the Star Wars universe. Very well. I mean, you look at all the best Star Wars games that have come out. Majority of them are single-player, story-based freaking RPGs. I don't think we're going to get another one. If it is, it will be tacked on to a multiplayer game. Because you look at the one that Visceral was making. They pulled it. Obviously they shut down Visceral. Then they pulled it and said, hey, we think, we looked at this game. we're going to go with something that's a little more what the market wants. So what's popular right now. And what's, player replayability and all this stuff. To me, that's saying, okay, you want to make a multiplayer game because that's replayability to you. And what's popular right now? What's the popular type of game right now? Shooters and battle royale games. So I would not be surprised at all if that game, the game that Visceral is working on, turns into a goddamn Star Wars Battle Royale. I would not. Because I firmly believe that that's what they want to make. Because it makes them money. Single player games, for them, they look at it and they think single player games don't make them money. I mean, these are the guys that did all the Mass Effect stuff. Dragon Age. All the rest of it. They've got BioWare sitting there, but BioWare is making Anthem right now. I don't know. EA. That's all I can say. It's EA. Freaking, they're getting in the way of a lot of stuff. And there's a part of me that just wants Disney to go along. And I know Disney stepped in on this loot box stuff. I would love for them to put pressure on EA and say, hey, where the hell is the content that you're supposed to be making? Where is we got all this stuff coming out. You should, I don't think they have much of a say in it. I really don't, because obviously EA owns the IP for Star Wars. So I don't know how much Disney has a say in what. I think they have to a certain point, but they can't dictate how much, they make from it, how much, games they make for it. But it's I wish they'd do something. I wish they'd say hey, could you just more games, man. More games, more things than fucking Battlefront all the time. Past, 3 years, all we've had is Battlefront. You look at the games that have come out for Star Wars, Star Wars games that have come out. Very little. Very, very, very little. Really, since Force Unleashed 2 came out. All it's been is Old Republic, couple of Flash games, couple of mobile games, and Battlefront. It's very disappointing as a Star Wars fan. Massively disappointing. And all you can do is look at EA. All you can do is look at EA and go, where are the games? Where are the games? What are you doing? You're holding this goddamn IP. It feels like they're holding the damn IP hostage, which is you don't want that. You don't want that. It's just don't do this, EA. Not to Star Wars, please. So yeah. All we can hope is someone comes to their senses. Someone comes along and says, hey, maybe we should just make a really damn good Star Wars game. Maybe we should just make a really damn good Star Wars game. And not throw all this microtransaction stuff into it. Could Battlefront 2 have been that? Potentially. It has its I think it could have had its time. It could have had its really, really good moments, and it does. It has its fun in places, and I have decent amount of good time with it. It's just I think EA got in the way again, and yet again a game that could have been quite good and could have been really fun, and a game that I've gone back, could go back to all the time and really had a good time with. Now I feel like I don't really want to. There are other games out there that draw my attention more than this, and it's disappointing. It's disappointing. Hopefully EA gets its head out of its ass and just figures its shit out. That's all we can hope for, and I don't think there's much hope, which is disappointing because I'm actually somewhat interested in Anthem because I love those looter shooter like games. Obviously Destiny like games. It makes you wonder what they're going to do with that too, which would be a shame. But yeah. All right, guys, that's it for us. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.